So,
So let's get started. Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome, Gejo. And today we will discuss the basics of test taking strategies or how to analyze a mock. Yes, there's one part is test taking, but after a test, you have to analyze and understand what to do with that paper because, as the Gejo and I have always maintained, the test or the mock is nothing but a learning tool. So, how do you learn maximum out of it is what we will do today. We will fix the basics today. And in the subsequent session, we look at each of the three sections, which is quant, DILR, and verbal. In the reverse order, we'll start with verbal, then go to DILR, and then go to quant, and discuss how you should analyze each of the three sections. Okay, so over to you, Jijo.
yeah. So, like GP said, so good afternoon, Abhimanyu, Aranya. Thank you for joining us. GP said here we'll kind of establish basically how to analyze mocks, and I'm sure that everybody is already analyzing mocks. And then, like GP said, we will take up each individual section later. So, think of this as sort of the foundation sort of session on analyzing the mock, which is very very important. Uh, there are we're going to do this session in this sort of this four small parts. First is when you're analyzing the mock, you're analyzing some kind of a score improvement, right? So if you typically look at the mocks, at the end of the day, we want to improve our score. Our score has to improve. So now the first question that we want to address is what score should I essentially focus? Is it percentile or percentage or actual score? Second is how to conduct a thorough mock analysis. What is that we have to do? And we'll discuss two key gaps to identify during analysis. If you have to improve a score, let's say we have got certain target, whatever is your target score, and currently we are here now. We have to reach this target score, but within that we want to differentiate and identify two gaps, gap one and gap two, which requires two different kind of approach. That's what we'll do. And then we'll talk about corrective action should be taken post analysis. What kind of corrective action to be taken post analysis? And there is a question towards the end. We'll take that. Yeah. So let's kickstart with the first part, percentile or percentage score. GP, I've taken this open CDC
Mhm.
which just happened. So this is a
Yeah.
graph between the overall score of the particular student and the percentile rank. We are calling it rank. The percentile is after all a rank. So so we can actually see that after a certain point in time, if you look at the scores improvement are huge. So if you look at a substantial improvement scores here, but the percentile movement is very low. And there are other places where you see that when there is a small sort of changes that happens in the score, let's say from here to here, uh, a 10 mark changes that happens in the score, we will start seeing that the percentile change is pretty huge, from something like a 56 percentile to all the way going to 84th percentile. And when you see here a score of 75 to a score of 105 is only making a very small change in terms of uh, the actual percentile, right? So small changes percentile. So GP, let's start with asking the question. GP, what is that students should focus? A lot of people say that I've got a fluctuating score. I don't know what actually fluctuate. Are they referring to percentile rank fluctuation or percentile score fluctuation? So according to you, let's start from there, GP. Score or percentile? What's that we have to focus?
Yeah, I am very clear about this. To me, percentile is something which is outside my control. Percentile or rank depends on what others have done. What is in my control is my marks. Percentage marks or raw score is what people call. So I will only worry about the raw score. If my raw score is good, percentile will be good. So I don't want to focus on the outcome. I want to focus on the process and what is within my control. So to me, it is very, very simple and clear. In every section, in the overall score, you need to be least bothered about percentile. Just focus on what is the raw score you are getting, what you could have got, what are the mistakes you committed because of which your raw score came down, and hence you suffered in terms of percentile.
Yeah, just to reiterate what GP is saying. So a lot of people are saying, GP, that my percentile fluctuates a lot. So let's, for example, take let's say 52 percentile to about 72 percentile, and that's the percentile jump, about 20 percentile jump. The assumption is 20 percentile means 20 percentage. So when you when you map it to actual scores in terms of what is the change in terms of the score that has happened, we're looking at something like what 19 here, a score of about 20. This talk about 10 marks roughly. We are
Yeah.
looking at something like 10-12 marks, which is
Yes.
just a fluctuation of four
Yeah.
questions across three sections. That is one question
I,
on an
I-
average per
actually,
section.
actually, what it means is you convert one wrong into one right, and hence only three questions.
Correct. It's a three question, actually the three question story, and three question fluctuation is very natural. So
Yeah.
when you look at these small improvement from 30s, if your score, let's say, moves to about but let's say moves to in the 40s, let's say another three question that you get, you start seeing that the percentile story then becomes immediately you're jumping about 85 percentile. So this fluctuation is very difficult to understand because the graph is not linear. So the percentile rank is very difficult to understand. Like GP said, is not beyond the control. So we are first making a statement that not your rank track your score. अपने को score पे लेने देना है.
Absolutely.
So this is like yeah. The
And,
more
and,
your
and for
score,
those who
yeah,
are worried about percentile, खाली इतना याद रखना है कि to get a something like a 75-80 percentile, you need something like 30%, 25% marks. So 198 or 200 mark paper, if you get something like 25% marks, which is 50 marks or 16 questions roughly, you will end up with a good percentile. So percentile is something, just don't worry about it. And as Gejo rightly said, भैया number देखो, marks देखो, focus on the score.
हाँ, स्कोर इंप्रूवमेंट होगा, परसेंटाइल इंप्रूवमेंट होगा, परसेंटाइल इंप्रूवमेंट का स्कोर इंप्रूवमेंट चाहिए अपने को, इवेंचुअली स्कोर लाइक जीपी सर स्कोर इज ना कंट्रोल. अब स्कोर कैसे इंप्रूव करेंगे, which is starting with thorough mock analysis, right? So typically what happens, GP, when people take the mock test, the next day is feeling bad about the test or good about the test, attaching for example, lot many people look at the mock and go, oh, this is a reflection of my ability. This is what is going to happen in the CAT. First thing that we have to understand is that these mocks are actually a tool to learn. We'll treat it as ये सब ना एक learning tool है. This is a learning tool, and this is a step that we recommend. You take the mock. I think the first thing that a lot of the students do immediately after taking the mock, once they get into the solution, they jump to the solution and start checking the explanation. इसमें कुछ learning हो नहीं रहा है. Explanatory answer is only explaining what the answer is. Explanatory answer is not explaining what your problem is. Even if let's say look at video solution is merely explaining the answer. Video solution is not explaining the problem. If I don't know what my problem is, how do I correct? मतलब मैं क्या ही correct करूंगा? मुझे पहले तो प्रॉब्लम समझना है ना. सो and so
And Gejo, just to add to what you're saying, one of the problems I find is that the answer to any problem seems to any issue seems to be do more questions.
correct.
That seems to be somehow students have taken in their mind कि मैं बहुत practice करूँ तो सब ठीक हो जाएगा. नहीं होगा. Because as Gejo, you have said, if I don't know what the problem is, what am I rectifying? On the contrary, if I keep doing more and more questions, the only thing I will do is solidify my wrong process. After I'm doing something wrong, if I keep practicing more and more without understanding the underlying cause, I will only solidify the wrong process and my score will only go down.
इसमें इसमें बहुत सारा सिम्टम निकलेगा as you take the mock test. सर मेरा एक्यूरेसी कम हो रहा है, ये वाला सवाल में है. सर मुझे ना मैथ्स में ना समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, ये मतलब आई गेट स्टक इन क्वेश्चन. सर मेरे को टाइम, ये सब सिम्टम है. ये हो क्यों रहे हैं? So it's a step, and I think this is so underrated and so important. The most critical step is to retake the mock with no time pressure, redo all the question before you even actually go and look at the solutions. You have to redo the question or every single question. बिना time pressure आराम से कर लो. So there is now I need to understand. So there are two things ना, इधर एक तो मेरा competence है, uh, which is my competence in terms of how much I know. So second is also very important in terms of whether I'm implementing. Am I able to implement my learning in the mocks? वो बहुत सारा बात होता नहीं है ना. So ये पहला second step है. उसके बाद is where you do actual mock and a retake analysis. ये this is not giving solution. This identify problems. Identifying problem is actually 75% of the problem solved, and then we may take corrective step. Then we can understand the corrective step. So if I don't do step number 2, which is retaking the mock test again, redoing all the question once again, then this I will not get to know, I will not get to know my problems, and therefore whatever is that step that I'm taking would not be satisfying. I'm not saying that this is kind of we'll find out solution to every single thing. We may not even find out solutions, but at least we'll have to understand problem. GP, ये बहुत जरूरी है ये step follow करने का भी. हाँ.
बिल्कुल, अगर प्रॉब्लम नहीं मालूम तो सॉल्यूशन नहीं निकल सकता। तो पहला चीज तो ये है, आइडेंटिफाई व्हाट इज द इशू, व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम, एंड डोंट गेट कैरिड अवे बाय सिम्टम।
चलो ठीक है. And let's say you did step number 1 and step number 2. You have taken the mock test, which means you have a score then. I'm just calling it then, which is like while taking the mock, and you might have something now. Something has happened now after redoing. So then it's like when taking the mock. Now it's like retaking, and we'll probably have these scenarios. Okay, so let me first explain these scenarios, and then we have put some names here. Okay, so this is just names. Okay, then there are cases where in the actual paper you have there'll be the case number 1 is you got questions correct, case number 2 is you got questions wrong, and case number 3 you did not attempt a question. ये है ना, मतलब ये तीन possibility हो सकता है. This is when what happened in the mock, that you got certain question correct, certain question incorrect, certain question you did not solve. लेकिन now when I'm retaking the test, ये वाला सही से दो चीज निकलता है. Some question are right, some question actually is wrong now, which means you probably would have taken a risk. So either we'll call the first one as a good shot, ये सही है, you knew it then, you knew it now. These are kind of what I can say तुम्हारा strength, and at least you can regard as your strength. ये सही है तेरे, ये sorted ये वाला चीज. Second case, when you were in doing the mock test, you got something right, but now you're getting something wrong. यार risky यार. You have to figure out. I think this. हाँ,
Yeah, teacher, just to add to this risky shot, it could also be you got it right by mistake. You
yeah.
thought it was something else कि गलती से सही हो गया. It was a risk you when, which means when you were taking the attempting the question in the paper, you yourself possibly were not sure how to solve the question. Somehow you got the answer and maybe it got right. Okay? So this was a risk which you take in the exam, which paid off. It may not have paid off also.
And in fact, if I actually look at VRC, VRC में यही होने वाला बहुत सारा. Eventually, VRC are taking risk only,
That's
right?
right. VIC is full of risky shots.
हाँ. So अपने को VRC के अंदर are you 100% sure of certain things. So you have to look at. You can even evaluate whether क्या risk लेना is risk coming in my favor. मतलब
हाँ,
risky shot इन दोनों में होगा ना कुछ. Okay, हाँ.
बिल्कुल.
So is it was it better for me to take the risk? Now one thing here is lot of you, when you do analysis ना तुम लोग भूल जाते हो ये वाला क्वेश्चन को. You only start looking at question that you got wrong or question that did not attempt. But it's absolutely so important to understand the question that you got correct, because that will reinforce. Okay, ये मुझे आता है, ये risky shot है, ये हो गया ये वाला. Next is the time when you got things wrong. Now इसके अंदर दो तरीके होता है. मतलब there are two things I need to differentiate between two kinds of wrongs. The one kind of wrong is that you, while taking the test, it was wrong, but when I'm doing analysis now, I'm getting it correct. ये कैसे हो सकता है? We are calling it unforced errors. मतलब this was absolutely silly mistake. So this is even let's say one of these questions you did not make this error, your net improvement in the score is going to be +4, because you would have got -1, say +4. ये वाला hero लोग, and then you have to understand why. Forget about understanding why, at least the unforced error. And this is a double negative. uh,
190.
uh,
Hmm.
in this case, this is like तेरे पास था ही नहीं औकात. सोचा था है, फिर है ही नहीं. Why would you end up marking a question wrong on something that you still don't know today? ये क्या ही है? So this is like a absolutely blunder decision. This is like a blunder, stupidity. I don't know what word to call it. ये तो मतलब, if let's say in your paper you realize a substantial number of errors that you're making are errors in this particular category, मतलब तू risky ले रहा है. So then you probably have to evaluate these two things. ये हो गया double negative. So this is like
जीजो जस्ट इसमें एक चीज मैं ऐड कर दूंगा. व्हेन यू से
हाँ,
डबल नेगेटिव, जो रिस्क ले रहा है, रिस्क जानते हुए ले रहा है कि नहीं आता मुझे, यू आर जस्ट होपिंग समहाउ इट विल बी राइट.
हाँ,
सो वो बस किस्मत के सहारे चल रहे हो कि होपफुली इट विल वर्क आउट फॉर मी. इट इज नॉट. So the two wrongs which are given, unforced error is something you should have attempted, and as Gito has rightly written, many of you call it silly mistake. A mistake is a mistake, whether it's silly or not doesn't matter. But this was a question which you should have got right, and hence this was a risk which you should have taken. The other one was you yourself know कि मुझे आता नहीं है, मेरी औकात नहीं है, भैया मैं क्यों अटेम्प्ट कर रहा हूँ, ये सवाल पूछना खुद से.
yeah. इसमें फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर 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 ऐसा वाला 9 सवाल ऐसा था, I'm just taking as an example overall. and that means that what you lost is like a 9 marks unnecessarily. If you had gained 9 marks, let me just go to this chart and just talk about gaining 9 marks. What does that mean? Let's say 51, which was you are at about 88 percentile may happen. You gain 9 marks, you went to about 60, तू चला जाएगा 96 percentile में, rank में. Yeah, just because you are decided that you do this. I think that this is fair. Sometimes you'll end up making some error here. ये तो मतलब ये नहीं है. ये हो गया. And then we have the third category, which is I did not attempt.
And
And
why
I did.
and what
Uh,
and Gijo, one last thing, why this is called Gijo, one last thing, sorry.
sure,
Why
sure,
this
sure,
is
sure.
called double negative is because you are getting a negative and you also have wasted time in this question.
Correct,
भैया जो
correct,
सवाल
correct.
आता नहीं था, why are you spending time on that question? So there's double negative because you are getting a -1 and you have wasted 3 minutes. Because that 3 minutes should have gone into some other question which you could have attempted. For example, bottom में what left है वहां पे जाना चाहिए था. Yes, Gijo, back to you.
Correct. And then the question that you missed. इसमें there could be certain thing that is amazing. मतलब there are मुझे ये सही है. This is very good decision. Decision wise amazing. Okay. बट औकात कॉम्पिटेंस वाइज नहीं है. डिसीजन तो अच्छा है. ये मतलब मिस अपॉर्चुनिटी. आई थिंक हाउ मेनी टाइम्स वी एंड अप हैविंग दिस, एंड आई एम 100% श्योर सम ऑफ द टाइम इन ये डीएलआर में होता है. हमने जाके कुछ उल्टा सीधा सेट पकड़ लिया, तो हम एक सेट छोड़ दिया, वहां से 4 क्वेश्चन निकल गया. मैथ्स पे फॉर एग्जांपल आई डिसाइडेड यार आई गॉट स्टक इन मे बी सम अरिथमेटिक, ज्योमेट्री देखा नहीं, and then there was a missed opportunity. You could solve these questions. These are missed opportunity questions. So this would how this so let me just clear this board. This is how it looks like. So this is, let's look at this, a decision. If I generally look at your decision, ये मतलब सही decision है, ये सही है, ये भी सही decision है, that you did not know. These are good decisions. Well left is a good decision that you took, and good shot is
Yeah.
obviously a good decision that you took. ये तो ये दोनों सही है. ये क्वेश्चन मार्क है, मतलब ये वाला चीज. हाँ, रिस्क लेना है. दिस इज ये एकदम एकदम खराब डिसीजन आर दीज टू थिंग्स. बिस्ट अपॉर्चुनिटी, these are bad decisions. Your decision, your here in this case decision was fine. तेरा decision सही नहीं है, implementation गलत हो गया. So if I look at at least your decision was right, at least attempt the question, but certain things that these two are really bad decisions, which is like getting a double negative and this. So when you
And one small thing to be added here, Gijo, double and
Hmm,
negative and missed opportunity are connected to each other. When you have
correct,
large number of double negatives, you will have large number of missed opportunities also. क्योंकि double negative के लिए, as I said, you have not only got negative, you spent time on those questions which were difficult for you. Hence, you did not have time for the easy question and they got missed out. So these you will find these are correlated. जितने ज्यादा double negative होते हैं, उतने ज्यादा missed opportunities भी होती हैं.
इसमें you could probably add is one more element that you want to add here, which we are not discussing, is the time that you spend within each question, right? That can
Yeah.
add one more sort of category in terms of, if there are questions that you unnecessarily spend a lot of time, then that could be another factor. But we are keeping it sort of very very simple. So in fact, if let's say, I don't know how many of you have ever seen these kind. I'm sure that a lot of you who are a career launcher student would have seen these names in the mock. Immediately when you look at the analysis, right below every single question in the solution, there are these 5 things. You can actually click on every single question. Yeah, whether it was good shot, tricky shot, unforced error, double negative, missed opportunity, well says. This analysis is integrated into the CDC mocks. CDC mocks के अंदर है analysis in the sense that you write it and towards the end वो एक summary आ जाएगा, how many of them are there. ये हो गया. Okay. Now the question about how do I improve? इसमें I'm going to call that something known as an AAT score. AAT score is your potential score, their actual competence score, which is a count of all the questions that you now got right, including the good shots, including the thing that you could have got right, and all the missed opportunity. ये हो गया तेरा औकात score. So there is 2 scores that you have to identify. One score that you automatically know, which is your test score, and other score that you know is whatever is your target is. I'm leaving it to you into the whatever target that you want to create, or let's say some sort of a target. You can probably put a whatever percentile for the particular test. Let's say you can benchmark yourself to the 99.5 percentile or whatever percentile that you're looking at. And but this is a score that you also need to know, and this a score will only come out बिना एनालिसिस से पता भी नहीं होगा ये विदाउट एनालिसिस दिस स्कोर यू आर नॉट गोना नो जीपी सो इसका ये हो गया ओके एनीथिंग वांट टू
Yeah.
ऐड हियर जीपी हां
No, I think we've covered
हां
everything, so we can move
और
on इसमें कि basically औकात समझ लो तुम्हारी क्या है.
ओके
Hmm.
and 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 then it's like I need to understand the gap. So these are the scores, right? So this is what happened in my test. Let's look at, I got 39 marks in the test, and I want to benchmark myself to target मुझे 99 point whatever to 9 ऊपर चाहिए. This is, I put my benchmark myself as a target as 90 marks. Now, when you start looking at this kind of gap from here to here, you see that is a huge, that is 40 to 90. My God, that is like how many questions? 40 to 90 is about uh,
50 marks, about 6 to 15 questions.
the 16 questions, 16 question, 5 question. But when I put Aukat score in the middle, and imagine Aukat score is 66 marks. What is Aukat score again? These are all the questions that you could have got correct in the paper.
You had the
You had
knowledge to get them correct.
you got knowledge to get them correct, and that creates, now it has now had to have two jumps which require two very different approach. Okay, now what is this gap? The first gap means, the gap number one means this was your औकात, and the test में जाके बहुत कम किया यार, 66 आने थे, 39 आया. So this is an implementation gap. When we call it implementation or execution, I can call it whatever. We'll just call it, I am not able to execute well in my test. I'm not taking the test like a champion. मेरा decisions during the test is an issue. What that specific decision, that we'll have to figure out. But at least some decision that I'm making in the test, if I make the right kind of decision, maybe for example, silly error is happening because you've read it fast. I think silly error happened because वो ये क्या 3 times 3 था, लिख दिया 6. Okay, and then गाय में कर लिया, or let's say missed opportunity, whatever, you'll get this. The next gap, this gap is a different gap. इतना ही मेरा औकात. मतलब even if I had all the time in the paper, I am only going to reach 66 marks. But if I have to now move to 90 marks, I have to get more competence. ये मुझे कुछ पढ़ना पड़ेगा. I have to add little more skills here. This is a competence gap. And these are the two very different approach. Competence gap मतलब means exam के पहले आना है. So this to fill this gap is essentially getting filled before coming to the exam. This particular gap has to be filled in the test in terms of how you approach the test. GP actually, uh, I'm very very certain that usually Avkas score will be very close to this.
And
Nahin?
in fact, Gejo, for many students, औकात score is higher than the target score.
In some cases, will be here.
ठीक है?
So what?
So
And then,
ultimately कहानी कहाँ है? What you are saying, the basic story is that there is one execution gap, that in the paper you did gochi, you messed up the process, hence you had to have a gap, which is what we call implementation or execution gap. Second is you don't have sufficient knowledge. That is the competence gap. So औकात स्कोर से टारगेट स्कोर जानने के लिए तुम्हें भैया नॉलेज चाहिए है. But from test score to औकात score, it is something which you could have easily got had you followed the correct process.
but you may not find solution to any of this, but you'll start asking the right questions to yourself. यार सबका solution थोड़ी चाहिए हमें. I think but we'll have to ask the right kind of question. For example, I have seen, if you are asking your, I don't know, mentor who are, or friends or जो भी है discussion, sir यार my score is always fluctuating, I don't know what to do. I've been preparing like this, DLR में हो नहीं रहा है sir, मतलब मेरा score PRC में इधर उधर होता है, QMS सर इस पे, these are this is not helping, those questions not helping. You have to start asking, sir, I don't know every single test, my OCA score is very close to the target score, what should I do? That's the right question to ask. What should you do to get this implement, which means what is that you're already doing. So every single
But
mock that you take, every single mock that you're taking is is a great opportunity to learn. Mock is a great opportunity to learn these things. Well, it's not about what score you got. It's about how do and I keep working towards these things, and by the time I reach the cat, hopefully I'll address this. So ये है basic GP. एंड करेक्टिव एक्शन करना है, दो चीज सिंपल है ना। एक तो मतलब गेट क्लोज योर औकात, है ना। औकात के लिए ये है ना, हाउ डू आई रिड्यूस अनफोर्स एरर, हाउ डू आई रिड्यूस मिस्ड अपॉर्चुनिटी, ये दोनों। ओके, सो इफ आई कैन एड्रेस दीज थिंग्स, व्हाई एम आई मेकिंग मिस्टेक्स, हाउ डू आई रिड्यूस माय मिस्टेक, मतलब अनफोर्स एरर्स, which is like not these one double negative, मतलब avoid this completely. Okay, avoid like GP said, double negative avoid करेंगे, missed opportunity आ जाएगा। GP, anything about how what can students do in terms of, I'm sure that we are doing sessions specifically within VRC, within DLR, within QA, so each section may be different, but broadly, any sort of advice to the students making all this error, unforced errors?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So कहानी कहाँ पे फंसती है जी जो लोगों की? Okay.
हाँ, तो
So
तो मैं पूछ रहा हूँ, अगर अगर मुझे औकात स्कोर बढ़ाना है, मैं एसेंशियली तीन चीज करना है ना मेरे को ये,
बिल्कुल।
हाँ हाँ। सो मुझे मिस्ड अपॉर्चुनिटी मिस नहीं करना है, अपॉर्चुनिटी
हाँ,
अनफोर्स एरर को कम करना है, और डबल
राइट,
नेगेटिव होना नहीं चाहिए, मतलब
होना ही
दिस
नहीं
दिस
चाहिए।
दिस हैज टू बी जीरो, ये
दिस
तो
हैज टू
जीरो
बी
होना।
जीरो।
हाँ
If you get double negative to zero, you have solved 80% of the problem. Risky shot फिर भी शायद चलेगा कुछ हद तक, but double negative is something I don't know what to do with the question, yet I'm trying to solve it. It is like saying I don't know the meaning of the word, let me try to do something and find the meaning in the question. No, it will not happen. If I don't have knowledge of that particular question, if I don't know permutation combination, and I try doing that question of permutation combination, I will not be able to solve it. I will end up wasting time. So you're absolutely right. Double negative को zero कर दो, कहानी सब ठीक हो जाती है अपने आप।
हाँ, ये वाला जो अनफोर्स एरर टिपिकली जो होता है, जिसने मेरा मेरा दिया ना, इट इज जस्ट दिस आइडिया दैट सब कुछ जल्दी जल्दी करना है। This is crazy idea that people have ki speed na, I have to do everything fast, and then unnecessary pressure with respect to time, timer leke मतलब pressure ले लेता है। अब I don't know why whether the timer exists or does not exist, time तो is
नहीं
gonna move।
नहीं जीजो, एक और चीज है, if you look at
हाँ
any section, let's say
हाँ
quant,
हाँ
99 percentile, in the worst case you need 55% marks. So out of 66, if you get something like 33, 35, 36, you will 36 पे 99 percentile हमेशा आता है। CAT 23 it was something like 26, 27 पे 99 percentile था, but if I am very liberal, I am saying I need to do 12 out of 24 questions, 22
हम्म,
questions, sorry, ठीक है। Is it so in 40 minutes if I have to do 12 questions, I have more than 3 minutes per question, टाइम की कमी नहीं है मेरे पास। इट इज क्योंकि मैं डबल नेगेटिव करना है, क्योंकि मुझे जल्दबाजी है, क्योंकि आई हैव टू मेक रिस्की शॉट्स, हेंस आई गेट स्टक विद टाइम। सो यू स्टॉप डूइंग डबल नेगेटिव्स, यू हैव ample time to do the paper.
so you have to ask the right kind of question though. I think normally what happens is that, see, at the core you can't, so you cannot simply say yaar sir time manage नहीं होता है, time manage नहीं होता है मतलब क्या है, you can't tell time sir tomorrow please be 25 hours, you only can manage yourself। I think the first issue that people have is they start doing everything, you should always be always at your pace of your pace of comprehension, always, whether you're solving DLR, whether you're solving QA, whether you're solving, it is all your pace, and you the only thing अपना औकात की बात चल रहा है ना, ये मेरा औकात, I have a particular औकात, I will only get my औकात if I work around in my pace, no, why am I bothered at this point in time, at least for me to just fill this implementation gap, forget about competence, है नहीं अभी competence, this is who I am, when I'm taking the particular test I have a particular औकात, that when I'm taking the test, I can only get close to this if I do things at my pace, how I normally do. I think what happens when you kind of take the test with people. Let's say I'm going to give the same mock test, and let's say one passage, or let's say one DLR set, and call it some other test. Call it as a practice test. Immediately, sab nikalta hai. Then you can solve. But it's
Yes.
just the moment we call the test mock, something changes. The moment it's called cat, things changes. But you have to understand there are questions on the screen. So this This
Hmm.
you work on this, uh, uh, work
And
on this.
Jijo, this is exactly what Shubham's problem is, I would say.
शुभम का क्या प्रॉब्लम है?
यही है, पेपर में नहीं होता वैसे हो जाता है, बिकॉज उसके ऊपर मॉक का लेबल चिपका दिया तो सवाल मुश्किल हो गया।
हाँ, तब यार क्वेश्चन तो वही है, कंप्यूटर तो
हाँ,
वही है, यूट्यूब भी वही है, ओके, वही करना है, स्क्रीन में जो दिख रहा है वही करना है, ये ऐसे थोड़ी है, मतलब सडनली मॉक इज एवरीथिंग इज सेम, व्हाट हैज चेंज? सो आई थिंक द इशू
see,
इज, सो सॉरी जीपी, हाँ
yeah, all I'm trying to say is पेपर की औकात मत बढ़ाओ, ठीक
हाँ
है? And I can, and all most of you have are in college or you have just passed out of college. I'm sure you would have seen जो लोग के ज्यादा भाव मिलता है, the girl or boy who's very popular becomes difficult to get. भाव मत दोगे तो सब कुछ हो जाता है. You are unnecessarily giving भाव to this paper. It consists of easy questions. Your job is to keep fishing for the easier ones and keep moving on. Don't get stuck. Oh, ये सवाल कैट में तो मुश्किल होगा, नहीं. Look at any old CAT paper, at least one of the paper has easy questions. Same thing in quant, same thing in DILR, same thing in verbal.
and we'll in the coming days we'll get into each of these section, VRC में क्या करना है, VRC में the score थोड़ा fluctuate, DLR में करना क्या है, DLR में क्या analyze करना है तुम्हें, we'll get there, but at this point in time just at least the mock that you're taking, yes, ये we can look at तुम लोग mock के बाद analyze करके at least data तो at least if you have data you'll get this. Second, of course, fill competency gap that hurts. मतलब अगर वो hurt करता है, जो मतलब competency gap मतलब क्या है, मुझे आता नहीं है, ये वाला क्वेश्चन है ना जो डबल नेगेटिव मिला है. One other thing is that ये वाला double negative may happen because you are tempted to solve a certain kind of questions. So then if you believe that this is really hurting, if for example you have decided, sir, if I make it zero now, my entire problem is solved, then you don't have to really worry about that competence. So competence मतलब
Yeah.
जो भी well if it requires, if you have to study more, in many cases you realize. So imagine the situation. No, you this is your mock score. This is your target score. Whatever his target score is, your औकात is here. मतलब क्यों एक्स्ट्रा क्यों पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं? Why are you what,
Yeah,
what are you
yeah.
studying?
Take an example. Let's take an example. Some people say
हाँ,
permutation combination बिल्कुल नहीं होता. छोड़ दो ना, एक सवाल आएगा, क्या दिक्कत है? Instead of 22 question, that's a 21 question paper for you. ठीक है? Though I would say don't take that call now. Take that call in sometime in October. ठीक है? When you have tried. Right now your target should be ठीक है. Let me try to keep improving my औकात. But at some stage you need to take that call, and as you just said, worry about the competency gap that hurts. The knowledge gap that does not hurt you is does not matter at all. If without this knowledge, without knowledge of certain question types, you can get a 99.5 percentile in the section. Does it really matter, that gap?
हाँ, तो
ईगो
बेसिकली
के लिए
कहानी कैसे,
100 परसेंटाइल लाना चाहते तो और बात है, बट मेरे हिसाब से कोई वैल्यू नहीं है उसकी.
ये तुम्हारा एक टारगेट है ना? Let's call this, let me put another color here ना, ये let me put another color, ये let's take yellow. In every preparation that you're doing, no, तुम्हारा जो प्रिपरेशन तू करता है, रोज बैठ के फाइट कर रहा है तुम लोग ना, ये जो फाइट कर रहा है ना, अ, ये फाइट कर रहा है तुम्हारा औकात बढ़ाने के लिए ना, योर कॉम्पिटेंस बढ़ाने के लिए तो फाइट कर रहा है ना, तो यू आर सॉल्विंग द क्वेश्चन सो दैट ये बढ़ाने के लिए तो फाइट कर रहा हो ना तुम लोग, सो दैट इट मीट्स द टारगेट. हम यू आर प्रैक्टिसिंग क्वेश्चंस ऑन वीआरसी, यू आर प्रैक्टिसिंग क्वेश्चंस ऑन डीएलआर, व्हाई यू हैव टू improve competence or your औकात so that you meet your target. Now you have reached here, almost there. Mock में जाके you are here, in the mock you are here, this is your mock score. Then and then you're suddenly figuring out, then studying more is going to get you what, your avkat will move up. But if you mock doesn't, the mock is not going to meet your avkat, nothing's going to happen. No, the point that I'm saying is that this gap ना, ये वाला gap में game है, ये वाला जो gap है ना, trying to build this execution gap is what people call test taking strategy. ये सब बड़ा बड़ा नाम जो होते रहता है ना, my ability test taking strategy, best strategy having no strategy, best
एक
strategy
ही
is
स्ट्रैटेजी है जीजो. किसी भी
हाँ
पेपर में एक ही स्ट्रैटेजी होती है, जो आता है वो अटेम्प्ट करो, जो नहीं आता छोड़ दो, बस.
हाँ. There has to be three questions जहाँ का answer to all the question has to be yes. Question number one, did I attempt? almost all I know. Yes. Did I leave all that I don't know? Yes. And the third question is, did I get almost all corrects from the things that I knew? बस ये है ना, ये तीनों में ऐसा होना चाहिए. Did I solve all the questions that I solved? And it's like making those critical decisions. If you, just because you read a particular passage does not mean that you have to solve all the four questions. Just because you read a particular set, I think using options. So this is this, yeah, in the, if you're taking this mock and you're doing this analysis and asking the right kind of questions, is what is going to actually put you in a path to reach somewhere. Otherwise, it's not happening. So yeah, that's
Perfect.
basic. Yeah.